We have a new House Speaker, a new Speaker of the House, and a lot of celebration going on with Nancy Pelosi. And
the new House Speaker, it's the same as the old House Speaker.
Yeah, which is a first, by the way, in a long time. It's been a long time since that happened. H is the Sesame Street word for hemorrhoids. A is the Sesame Street word for Andrew.
Put them together, and what does it spell?
And the number is just one.
Anthony Brindisi followed through on his promise. And actually, I got to tell you, he was all in yesterday on this. A, he did not vote for Nancy Pelosi yesterday. He did not vote present. There were a handful of Democrats who voted present. Others voted for someone else. Do you know who Anthony Brindisi voted for as Speaker of the House?
If I'm not mistaken, when we brainstormed names of somebody who could come here to endorse him, that was
a name that popped up.
Was Biden.
Yeah, and he had no one come here in his defense, except for Bowser from Sha-Na-Na, which we were all kind of
and
like...
the nuns on the bus.
Although
they were more against, I think, policies.
Anyway, he voted for Joe Biden. He was the House member who voted Joe Biden. He also refused, at the very least, declined to have a photo and family photo with Nancy Pelosi yesterday. Katko as well. Interestingly, Katko became one of the few House Republicans to vote for the rule changes proposed by Pelosi in the House. That's something that he's really campaigned on. This will allow bills to get onto the floor, bipartisan, maybe a move in a positive direction when it comes to the divide. I don't know how long that'll last. Let's talk to Rachel Sutherland about that from Fox News. We have a very divided government, it seems, but for a little, there was a glimmer of maybe bipartisanship yesterday. Good morning, Rachel Sutherland.
Glimmer of cloudiness.
Hey, good morning.
Just
it was a big day on the Hill yesterday with a lot of changes. Obviously, the House now controlled by Democrats. Republicans still maintain control of the Senate. And some of these rules changes that you're talking about would sound, on the face of it, a little wonky and boring, but they're important. One of them would have to do with the Oversight and Reform Committee really broadening their jurisdiction, and that's really important. That's key because considering all the inquiries that Democrats intend to conduct when it comes to the Trump administration, so that's going to be important. Also, when it comes to headwear on the House floor, still can't wear cowboy hats, but you can wear hijab. So the two Muslim women who have been elected will be able to wear that, but not other headgear.
It is. It really is quite interesting when you think about where we are as a nation, where we were as a campaigning country. That you have two Muslim members wearing that headdress in the U.S. House. It's really quite a step forward, I guess.
Right. One of them from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, she'll be wearing the hijab. But if you want to wear a cowboy hat, you're out of luck. So Representative Frederica Wilson of Florida will not be allowed to wear her signature cowboy hats on the floor. But so there's been a lot of evolution when it comes to the House rules, and they can do this. They can change things when they come in, and it's going to be important going forward. Of course, they also passed a bill to reopen the government that has no chance of going anywhere because it doesn't provide any money for the border wall. The new House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, of course, calling this immoral and a waste of money, and she says there's just flat out not going to be a wall. So here we are in, what is this, day 14 now of the government shutdown.
And that is an area where you kind of wonder, will either side, will Trump or Pelosi budge just a little bit to get everybody back to work? You wonder. The other thing I find interesting is it was just a couple of years ago, if you remember, in France, they outlawed, I believe, hijabs in public. You couldn't walk. Women weren't allowed to walk in public.
Really?
I do remember that, yeah.
In France. We think of France as being this democracy. Yet here in the House of Representatives, it shows you that we can step forward for religious beliefs despite all the adversity in the world today. It's pretty impressive, I think.
It's interesting stuff, and I think that we'll see it on the House floor, and before we won't really notice it anymore. It'll just be part of the way that things are.
Now, quickly, is she meeting, Pelosi meeting with the president today? Are they going to debate?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have a second meeting today to try to reopen the government, but these two sides are so far apart. They each need to offer somebody something. I mean, you can't get your way completely on either side.
Yeah.
I had an idea just quickly, and Rachel doesn't have to stay for this, but here's the idea. It's almost like I get a sheet, right, and I fill out what I want, and then the other side gets a sheet, right, and then we open them at the same time. There's this big reveal, because I feel like whatever either side says, there's not going to be a lot of agreement. It's, I don't know, if you want red and I want blue, we're never going to get to purple, okay? There's never going to be this blend of what we want. Everyone's going to keep repositioning. So to find the common ground, if the other side doesn't know what it is, maybe there's a likelihood that they can reach some commonality.
Maybe you're the deal maker, not the president.
Maybe
I don't know.
so.
Send me to Washington.
Going to be interesting. And, Rachel, don't discount the weekend. You never know. Weekends are not just quiet times anymore in politics.
No, we'll be watching. And if there's anything that develops, we'll let you know.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
And Rachel Sutherland from Fox News. You do wonder, will there be some sort of a compromise? There's no compromise when it comes to Milwaukee's best in Utica. You have a slight, people can't see it from the back of your head, but you had a slight roll of the eyes.
Listen, I'm all for Utica City FC.
I think Rob Esch called it a lighthearted story. I think that was the quote that I saw. In reality, it's a spoof story. And it's the mayor having a little fun with Milwaukee. They may return the favor a little bit by banning Saranac beer. It's possible. But well,
that's a great thing for this community, isn't it?
Right. There we go. Another trade war started through egos.
Oh, yes. That's
egos.
what it is.
It's just terrible.
The Cold War.
What else?
So can I just say, have you been to one of the soccer games?
I have.
People rave, right? You liked it, right? It's
unbelievably fast and impressive. I have friends, Tony and Denise, who she's a high school soccer coach. And she's not been to a game yet, but raving about what she's seen, and don't feel so bad. She's a soccer coach and doesn't completely understand the rules, because I'm explaining there's a penalty box. You don't have that in soccer.
Sure.
So, but she said it's incredibly fast.
She probably wishes there was.
Very excited. Yeah, she throws some people in it. Very excited about this brand of soccer, and they play on Sunday. They have a home record that is undefeated.
Yeah, they're 4-0, 5-1 overall, and their opponent on Sunday is Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Wave. And Milwaukee, I think, is the only undefeated team left in the league so far this year. So 2:00 game on Sunday at the Adirondack Bank Center. I think they sold out last Sunday. Boy, wouldn't it be interesting if this became the new thing? Keep the Comet streak going. But if now UCFC is selling out games, that's crazy. That'd be awesome.
Prosecutor alleged Thursday that a woman this is on Long Island, tried to, I guess, kill her estranged husband by making him cocktails
with something in it,
antifreeze.
Yeah,
that'll
this is
get
bad stuff. There was a murder case I handled around here maybe 10 years ago that involved this.
Renee Burke, a 40-year-old from Holbrook, pleaded not guilty to charges of attempted murder, attempted assault, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The attorney declined to comment. It's alleged that between September 1st and the 12th of this past year, on multiple occasions, the defendant attempted to kill her estranged husband by unlawfully entering his residence and pouring antifreeze into several beverage containers in his apartment.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
she did it without his knowledge, and he's like, that tastes funny.
Or he would open a bottle of, I don't know, something that's not blue and say, what is this?
Yeah, there are different colors of antifreeze as well. And if you're pouring just a little bit in, it probably would not take on much of a color. But, you're talking about something that, they say the best way to, you can be arrested for this apparently, but I was told to get rid of skunks, a little tuna fish with antifreeze, and they love it.
Oh,
They'll
really?
just consume it, and it would kill the skunk. Now, apparently, I was told, I never did it, just for the record. Never did it. Mm-hmm. Never did it. We actually trapped our skunks which might be illegal too, I don't know, and took them to people's houses that I don't like. And it's amazing with a skunk, if you put a blanket over the trap, over the cage, you use those little trap cages, you put a blanket over that, which you put it on beforehand.
Yep.
Then the thing comes in, and it catches it, and you put the handle on those things. You put a little slit so that the handle comes through. If the skunk can't see you, the skunk will not spray.
Isn't that
and
crazy?
I thought that was ridiculous. So we put the skunk in the vehicle, someone else's, of course, because I wasn't taking any chances. I'm a believer right up to the point that it includes my car in the interior. Anyway, put it was the back of a pickup truck, and that skunk never sprayed. We took it out into the country and released the skunk.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we gave it the tuna fish and antifreeze.
That's right. Then we added the tuna fish. Yeah. Actually, I saved that for my wife's. No, I didn't. 6:30. I was going to say cat. I think the cat's a beautiful cat. You'd never do that to an animal. And the fact is, though, that antifreeze will kill.
It does horrible things to your body.
Do that to an animal, what do you think it's going to do to a human? But anyway, she has been caught. So there you have that. Andrew updates the news. A lot to talk about with Willie Waffle coming up. And the movies. The Golden Globes are this weekend. We're hitting that awards season time, believe it or not. Also, I really want to talk to Willie about the Bird Box, that movie with Sandra Bullock.
Did Willie review Vice for us?
And we'll talk about Vice. I saw that movie.
How was it?
You want to be careful walking out of there because people start screaming, "Liberal! You're a liberal wacko!"
Really?
The movie, there's a little surprise in the movie if you hang out, because it kind of addresses that. It is clearly a movie that takes a liberal stance. So, but it's worth seeing because some of the stuff that comes out of that movie is absolutely true and has been proven. While denied, has been proven. Worth watching. And I'm a George H.W. fan. So we'll get into it. Does not make him look all that great, I have to tell you.
I didn't think so.
6:32, Andrew Does news coming up. Our free money question this morning from the Hobica Law Firm happens at 7:35. And we will speak also this morning with Congressman Anthony Brindisi. He made some news yesterday in the way that he voted and the photos afterwards and some other stuff. Tanya J. Powers standing by on the line right now, and then we'll go to news. I want to squeeze her in if I can. Good morning, Tanya, and Happy New Year.
Good morning. By the way, I'm looking forward to hearing your interview with Anthony Brindisi.
I got to tell you, very interesting yesterday as he voted against Nancy Pelosi. He's the one that voted for Joe Biden yesterday. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, and also opted out of the photo op with his family and Nancy Pelosi yesterday. So, really interesting. And here in that campaign, that was the battle cry. He's lying. He will vote for Nancy Pelosi, and turns out he didn't. It was really quite interesting.
He didn't. Yeah.
It's funny when we talked to him later this morning. I want to say to him, I totally get it, and you're right. That was a major issue, but. Boy, don't go getting on the wrong side of folks now.
You're right.
Not taking the picture.
Yeah, his office is actually in the street now. It's quite interesting. All right. So what happened? PETA is out making some real big charges after a college football game, right?
Yeah, this was the Sugar Bowl. A couple of days ago, and you may have seen the video before the Sugar Bowl, or may have seen it live. When before the teams, came out onto the field and everything in the pregame, there was a little photo op, or that's what it was supposed to be, between Bevo, who is the 1,700-pound University of Texas Longhorn steer, and Uga, who is the slightly smaller English bulldog. And
slightly.
Those are two live mascots. And when they were having this little moment before the thing, a little photo op, Bevo, I guess, got a little aggressive, came out of his barricade a little bit and kind of decided to come over to say hello, which kind of freaked everybody out because, big, huge longhorn steer with giant horns on the loose kind of makes people nervous.
Yeah.
Clipped a couple of photographers. Nobody was seriously hurt, but now PETA's saying you should get rid of live mascots and go with the student ones instead.
I do get their magazine every month. It's always quite interesting, and you never know. There's like nudity in it at times. It's really quite. They are all against animal nudity, but you could put a woman in there with no clothes on. They're all for it. But they love their extremes. We had an interesting billboard that was here during the holidays. That what was that one?
It's I am me, not meat.
Right, it was a chicken.
Go vegan.
By the way, yeah, it was a picture of a chicken.
There was one with a cow too. Down the street.
I'm me. I am a me. I'm me. I'm basically
I'm a person.
Human. Yeah. What do you, I mean? There are a lot of colleges use live mascots, especially when you go into. This is big tradition in the South, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think this is going to make them decide to retire their live mascot.
Yeah.
This is the 15th Bevo, and I think maybe the 12th UGA. So this has been going on a long time.
Yeah,
I don't want them to do this, but for PETA, this is right on brand.
They love this.
I'm not surprised about this at all. This is kind of their wheelhouse. So.
Tanya Powers, have a wonderful day. We'll talk again on Monday.
Thank you.
Tanya from Fox News. I know she had to be out at 6:36, and I was going a little long. You wanted to
just
add?
A quick thought. I thought, with telling the story, I hadn't heard about this. You're telling me this steer got loose and maybe a photographer got clipped. Yeah. So I'm like, don't tell me they put the thing down.
They
right?
did not.
They did not.
No.
Okay. That's got to be probably, and the same thing for the dog, too. The most well-treated steer and pup.
You can imagine.
Yeah. This side of, So the idea that don't have them as live mascots, they're probably treated like kings.
Yeah.
Okay, they're probably treated better than some people are.
I'll tell you something.
And PETA wants to end that?
I know firsthand from what I actually knew someone that was one of the caretakers of the Orange in Syracuse, Otto the Orange, and he is treated so well. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable.
Well, they plucked him from his universe where he came from. And,
I mean, how'd you like to be dangling from a tree? It ain't fun.
It's not, no.
So now he's grown into the position. He runs around. Some say sometimes he might even be a she. I'm not sure if there's a gender issue going on there or not, but it's really quite amazing. How that fruit is treated.
And vegetables are people, too.
Comets are on the road this weekend. Utica City FC is at home on Sunday. And the Pioneers are home just tonight, right?
Yeah, tonight against Skidmore.
Yeah. And they're into the thick of things right now.
Yes. And, Syracuse basketball starts. It's
12 noon tomorrow.
ACC schedule.
This is a game they should handle Notre Dame handily. They should be able to put Notre Dame in their place tomorrow.
Well, we'll see.
However, this is a team that's been very unpredictable. So
like the weather, up and down.
Yeah. Syracuse newspapers did a story with the National Weather Service on when are we going to see a significant snow upstate. You remember how this all started? It started back in September when they said it was going to be more moderate and less snow for the winter. And then October, November came. Remember, we got off to a snowy start. There were school closings, and we went with a couple of weeks of snowy weather. It looked like we were going to be in for a real snowy season. And then everything changed. Mm-hmm. We had a day that was in the mid-60s in December. Today it'll warm right up into the mid-40s.
New Year's Day, I was here New Year's Day I was in, and when I did the update at 6 or 6:30, it was 51, then it was 53, and by 8 o'clock it was down to 40 degrees. And then obviously that night,
it started out warm.
It was very warm overnight,
And one more thing. So the question is, will we get a significant snowfall? And at least according to the National Weather Service, focusing in on upstate New York, the belief is it'll be relatively quiet for the month of January. Don't expect much snow as of right now. Keep in mind they have a tough time predicting tomorrow, let alone 3 weeks out. Willie Waffle standing by right now. Good morning, Willie. An interesting holiday season for the movies.
It is, and now that they've told us we're not going to have snow, I expect a foot tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. All of a sudden, there'll be some giant nor'easter heading our way. Okay, so I want to talk about a couple things. I saw the Will Ferrell movie.
God!
Oh, him and the other guy are the guys who did the phony NASCAR movie. I don't remember what it's called.
Yes,
Step Brothers. Right. They did.
Yeah. Willie, that might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's pretty darn close. I mean, that is easily the worst movie I saw all last year, and it's probably in my top 5 of all time worst movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it really felt like they didn't even try. It just felt like, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly just got on set, and they were told, just improvise. Just make some stuff up. Because the story didn't matter. There was no real script to talk of. It was just them trying to act silly the whole time, and it wasn't funny. It just wasn't funny at all.
It's funny how they found their way stuck in a third world. Not a third world, but a third dimension. Okay. They were stuck in a third dimension in between what is funny in America and what is funny in Great Britain. And they just didn't want to commit to either one. It was just, there were a couple of moments that I did laugh, and I have to tell you, I went off my diet, enjoyed the popcorn. It was really good.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah.
But when they threw in the Trump jokes, that's when I knew they were done.
Yeah. Okay, and speaking of politics, I also saw Vice. And that was very interesting, but definitely from one side, it was a one-sided perspective of the vice president during the years of George W.
Yep, and I'll tell you, I think the problem with Vice is that it's not coming from a place of gonzo comedy, which is what they want to be. It's coming from a place of anger and hate.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not funny. And I think that's the big problem with Vice. You've got Christian Bale doing an amazing job.
It was incredible.
As Dick Cheney. Yeah. It's an amazing physical transformation, a personality transformation, a characterization. I mean, it's one of the best acting performances you'll ever see. But the material is so spotty because it just wants to be full of vitriol. It wants to, give a comeuppance to Dick Cheney, and it's not based on a lot of fact. It's not based on a lot of reality. It just feels like, a bunch of Hollywood liberals gathered together on a Saturday night, had a few drinks, and are telling you why they hate George Bush and Dick Cheney.
Yeah. And it's funny because there was a woman sitting behind us that was narrating the whole movie. Things like, see, I told you so. Oh, just like the current one. That stuff. Boy. It was. But at one point at the end of the movie, I don't want to give it away, but during the credits, it's worth staying because they definitely reference the fact that it is like a liberal fantasy. The movie, they reference it. You got to stay for the credits to be able to see that. Anyway, we saw it.
That's Christian Bale.
Start off the movie. When they start the movie, they put up this disclaimer that we think some of this is true, but we don't know, and takes a shot at Dick Cheney. And I'm like, you're already starting on the wrong foot, man.
Yeah. It was it was interesting. However, I was bored during the break and needed distractions. One of those distractions was Bird Box, the movie you told us about just before it was released on Netflix. The decision by the movie company to go by way of streaming versus a theater release. Probably the biggest movie to ever be released, I would assume, on something like Netflix. What'd you think of it, Willie?
Right now, Netflix is claiming, as of about, I want to say about a week ago, 45 million subscribers had watched the movie.
Wow.
Which is an amazing number, But the problem is there's a lot of questions about how valid that number is. And the kind of the formula that they use to determine what's a view, how much of the movie do you have to watch for it to count, all those kinds of things. But it's clearly taking the nation by storm because it's an interesting movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually really liked Bird Box. I mean, you've got Sandra Bullock, this pregnant woman who's alive when this virus starts to break out, and people are starting to commit suicide. And if you see somebody do this, then you get the virus. And so she's holed up in this house with like 5 other people or 6 other people, and we see what's going on there, but we also fast forward 5 years, and we see what's going on when she's finally had enough.
Yeah.
When, maybe there's one chance for getting away from all this, and she's going to take it.
I got to tell you something, Willie. It was one of those, usually it takes a movie theater to get you to this point where you're squirming in your seat because you feel something horrible is going to happen. And I found myself doing that on my living room couch, which is a major accomplishment, I think, for a movie on TV.
Oh, absolutely, and it's got all the tension you'd ever want.
Yeah.
You're sitting there trying to figure out what is the motivation of every person in this house. Who's going to break? Who's going to do something wrong? Who's not going to be trusted? Plus, how did this virus start? Yeah. How are these people going to survive? How are they going to get away from it? It gets you intellectually engaged in that way, and I think that's brilliant.
What do you give it?
I go 3 waffles. I thought it was a very, very good movie. I thought there were a lot of unanswered questions that were kind of a big deal, and I thought that took away from the movie. But I liked it. I mean, I agree with you. I was sitting there squirming in my chair with every little thing that happened that scared you and made you wonder, how are they getting out of this situation?
It does make you wonder what this means for the future. I mean, if they've had this success with a release like this, you do have to wonder what other movie companies and big blockbusters are considering down the road.
Well, this is the future. I mean, Netflix is all in when it comes to original material, and you've seen this. They're already all in with their own television programming, but they're making the move in movies as well. They had the Christmas Chronicles. They had Bird Box. This spring, they're going to have a Ben Affleck movie that looks really good. Later this year, they're going to have the Martin Scorsese Mafia movie with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Wow.
I mean, they are producing movies. The Oscar winner this year, Roma, which could win the Oscar, is a Netflix movie. You can see it on Netflix right now.
That's really incredible.
They're doing a big deal with it.
Yeah.
Willie, speaking of squirming in your chair, I just have to ask, what is the compensation that the producers and directors of the movie get? Because I would be squirming in my chair knowing if 45 million people watched Bird Box, that I could be getting $10, $12, or $20 a ticket from them versus Netflix gets roughly a $10 monthly membership and access to everything else. How much money do you think they left on the table by going this avenue?
Well, I think, the original thinking was that they were not going to be leaving money on the table because they weren't going to get a theatrical release. A Bird Box movie is not the big blockbuster movie that you would see in a movie theater.
Right.
It's not going to get the Avengers treatment. It's not going to get the Black Panther treatment. So they're basically getting paid to make the movie. The production company that owns the movie is getting their money when they sell the rights to Netflix. But that is something that's come up. A lot of the movie makers are saying, how do I know how many people really watched my movie on Netflix? Because we don't have some independent way to judge it.
Well, I got to tell you, you can judge by the number of memes on Facebook, and they're all over the place. It's something, and you're right. Had that movie been released in theaters, we wouldn't really be. It'd be cool. Okay, you'd still give it 3 waffles. It'd be a great movie to get out and see, but it would not have the numbers, especially coming out during the holiday season in the midst of Aquaman and all the big blockbusters. So. Very interesting, and I love the movie. I thought it was really, really good. Okay, Escape Room. By the way, in terms of Bird Box, what do you say to people who say, oh, it's nothing but a Quiet Place ripoff?
Yeah, there's a point to that, but, I think it's very well done. So, yeah, it's a lot like A Quiet Place. You're right.
All right. And by the way, Krasinski says he's coming with a sequel to Quiet Place. And that movie, of course, much of it was filmed in Little Falls and surrounding areas. Pretty cool. All right, the movie this week you're reviewing, Escape Room. What do you think?
Oh, I think this is a typical January release, but it doesn't stink as much as most of your January movies do. It's a group of 6 people who don't know each other who have gotten this mysterious invitation to go to an escape room where the person who wins will get $10,000. But what they don't know is that the losers get death. Yeah, and, it's okay. I got to be honest with you, it doesn't have a lot of depth. The characters don't really matter that much. The script is not really there. It's more of an action movie and a thriller movie. As we see them moving from puzzle to puzzle, as everything gets more dangerous and more dangerous, and we wonder who will live and who will die. And that's fine. I mean, it at least keeps you interested. I think they spend too much time at the end of the movie setting up a sequel, but I'll go 2 waffles.
All right, very interesting. There's a lot to get into, and a lot of thoughts about Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, you might want to consider it, especially during these cold or not so cold, not so snowy weeks to come here. One more here, Willie. Golden Globes this weekend, right?
Yeah, the biggest Hollywood kiss-up of all time is the Golden Globes.
And it is this weekend, which kicks off that awards show season.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Good stuff. It's wafflemovies.com. Willie, thanks. Enjoy the weekend, man.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of this weekend, we'll have all 4 games on WIBX, NFL games.
Absolutely.
2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. You'll hear them here on WIBX 950 and WIBX950.com. I have a whole bunch of stories that I was unable to get to from 2018 that are some really good ones.
Okay.
And some crazy ones, too. Do you remember the story of the singer that claims he has such range that he sings notes that even his human ear cannot hear? When you think about that, how do you prove, right? The human ear cannot hear the notes that I sing. I have such range. Here, listen. Wasn't that wonderful?
Wow.
The dog is nodding.
Yeah, the dog's like, oh, yeah, I heard it.
It was a good one.
Music to my ears. Singer Tim Storms has just set the unofficial world record for the lowest note ever sung by a human being. It's way below what humans can actually hear. His lowest, I find this to be just the dumbest story ever, but his lowest note is 8 octaves below the lowest G on a piano. And let that sink in a bit, in a range that only elephants, not even dogs, can hear. 8 octaves is roughly the range of an entire 88-key piano. What we can hear in this clip is actually only the upper portion of his full range. Listen very carefully here.
That is. Oh, he's still singing. Don't interrupt.
That's right. I'm sorry. I stepped on him. That is quite impressive when you think of it. You want to hear it again? I'll play it again in a second. Here he is talking about the notes that you can't and even he can't hear.
Elephants. Yeah, I've heard that they communicate like they can hear each other like over 25 miles or something like that because I think they communicate around 4 hertz, some frequencies around there. Yeah, I can kind of hear them in my head as far as the sound my vocal cords are making. But as far as the frequencies, it's something more.
Now he's the elephant whisperer.
You kind of have to be a real music aficionado, I guess, to really understand this.
He sounds like
I can hear the elephants.
Listen again. And again, he says he can't even hear what he's singing. So there. Listen again. This is his range. Starts off up a little high and then makes his way down. Here we go.
Okay.
Kind of fades into the white noise in the background.
You know, what was the name thing? Remember we had Buck in here? I have some paper airplanes. Someone for the Christmas Eve show brought us some paper. Can you go get them? So I think when I throw it, you should make that noise. The woo, you should do it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect sound effect for a paper airplane.
Did you hear that?
Smitty, you don't have to get it.
That was an elephant hearing something.
We'll break and.
Do you remember the name game? Do you hear Yanni or the
Laurel?
other Laurel? This would be a great trick to play on somebody, and you say this guy can sing at a level
you can't even hear it.
And then you just have. Hang on, listen. Did you hear it?
Yeah. All I know is there's an elephant on the way from the zoo.
He's going to crash through here.
Hold on tight. Our free money question happens at 7:35 from the Hobico Law Firm. It's worth $100 in cash this morning. 7:35. Then we'll do Anthony Brindisi after his swearing in Congress yesterday. Frank DuRoss Jr. coming on to talk about a climate change lecture. This always gets people going, especially on this radio station. A climate change lecture that is happening in New Hartford. We'll talk about it coming up at WIBX. This movie, this
Sherlock
Holmes movie was just
and Step Brothers
awful.
was good, and even Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights was the one.
And you're right.
You say they're good.
This guy, the guy that was with him,
John C. Reilly.
C. Reilly, is in Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
This. I swear to God, it was my wife and I and I don't know 4 other people in the movie theater, and there wasn't a peep through the whole movie.
They should.
Every once in a while, I'd laugh. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Oh my God, something that actually was kind of funny. Yeah. Okay, talk about what's going to be happening here in New Hartford.
Frank DuRoss Jr. is holding a lecture series on climate change, and the first one is Monday at New Hartford High School.
Well, I want to get into this. I don't know if anybody watched what Chuck Todd did over the weekend.
Oh, I didn't see it.
But on Meet the Press, which airs here on WIBX on Sundays, but he did a whole hour of Meet the Press on climate change and refused to have any opposing opinion, saying the science has been basically has been argued, and the argument is over that climate change is real. So for that reason, he wouldn't have any opposition on Meet the Press. It drew some actually I believe Fox News. Fox News covers anything any of the other news outlets seem to do now, which is a big change in 2018. They never used to really talk about other networks, but now they cover the NBC, MSNBC, CNN, whenever there's a story. And this one Fox covered, saying, "Can you believe that they would not have opposing viewpoints when it comes to the science of climate change?"
No, I just note to myself that it's interesting, and I guess I'm sharing it with everyone else, that I don't think it's a great idea that he doesn't bring out an opposing view. But I will say, in a day and age where we have celebrities who get all kinds of press because they say the Earth is flat, for him not to bring out an opinion of people saying, well, the climate isn't changing, or we get into the whole man-made or not man-made debate. I like Meet the Press. I wish they wouldn't have handled it this way. But again, think about that. People get all kinds of coverage about talking about flat Earth.
We're in a world.
Hasn't that been decided?
We're in a world where truth doesn't matter anymore, and it's not just in the world of science. It's in politics. Sometimes you can actually sit there and watch a video, and people will walk away saying, "Yeah, but that's not real." Okay, they made it look that way. Frank DuRoss Jr. Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Wonderful. And are you? So your role at New Hartford. Is that of a science teacher?
Yes, I'm a science teacher at Perry Junior High.
And my kids went through Frank's classes, and I don't know how you survived it, Frank. I don't know. But this is something that the town of New Hartford is sponsoring, and it's a lecture series on climate change. Explain what this is about. And this is I believe the first in the series.
This is actually the fourth.
Okay, I'm a little slow.
Yeah, this is a part of the New Hartford Climate Smart Committee, which was instituted over the summer, and we have about 10 members on the committee, and we are seeking to receive certification from the New York State DEC as a climate smart community. It's a program they've been running for a while now. And so as a part of that community, we are having a series of lectures, and this is the last one actually coming up on Monday. And the topics have been the science of climate change, how we deal with the impacts, how we adjust to the impacts, the ethics of climate change, and the lecture coming up on Monday is about the politics of climate change. So that should be definitely an interesting one.
Well, there's one that'll grab everybody's attention because it has been completely politicized. What's your take on what Chuck Todd did on Meet the Press over the weekend?
Well, I believe that was the right decision. In fact, there is no serious scientific debate about climate change. Over 97% of climate scientists agree that the climate is warming and it's being caused by humans. So that debate is sort of past due, and it's no longer a debate in the scientific community. And when we talk about it as an issue that is up for debate, I think it confuses the issue. The debate now is how do we handle that?
I find it interesting. They made a comparison on Sunday to the cigarette companies back in the 1960s. And because when you think about it, climate change, if we acknowledge the fact that it's human-made, made by smoke and smog and fossil fuels and all of that, then in order to prevent that, it's going to be very costly. Just like saying smoking was bad for you would be very, very costly for these big tobacco companies. So they denied it back in the 60s. Do you like the comparison?
I think there's definitely some analogies there in that we have put this off long enough, and we're to the point now where we have to make serious changes to prevent the most serious effects. There's already effects that are sort of baked in that we can no longer avoid because we've been putting off the problem of dealing with carbon dioxide emissions and other greenhouse gases for too long. But we have a window. It's a relatively short window now in which we can affect some change. But as you say, there's certain trade-offs that come with that.
Yeah.
But I believe that, when we listen to sort of isolated viewpoints on either end of the political spectrum, we sort of get lost. But recent polling actually also says that there's actually some agreement between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to climate change. That I feel like there's starting to be a tipping point where we can reach some sort of consensus by agreeing on, shared values, and we could start to maybe make some progress in the next coming years.
Banaski.
I forgot my question. Go ahead.
There, I want to. What do you? I always say, forget the political argument, and that would be put if you put the politics aside and you just say, listen, we are in the midst of clearly climate change. There's no doubt that we're in the midst of climate change. Just ask the people who drive snowmobiles. We are a completely different climate today. We have some very, very cold weather in February, usually January, February. But for the most part, look at what's happened to over the last 30 years. What's happened to the local ski resorts? Gone. What's happened to the snowmobile businesses that used to really thrive during the winter months? Gone. So it's hard to deny. But what's wrong with saying I'm not sure that it's really not? Some will say it's cyclical. This is all part of the cycle. It happens. It's part of the world. But what is wrong with saying, hey, the world would be a better place for me and my family and my children and grandchildren if there was just less pollutants? I mean, is that a bad way to look at it?
No, I mean, I think there's, climate change is going to affect various people, various communities in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
In our area, what we're going to see is warmer and wetter as the climate changes. And obviously that's bad for, ski resorts and snowmobilers and so forth. And, we are going to see those sorts of changes. But if we look over the past couple of years at some of the, natural disasters, whether it's the Camp Fire and wildfires in California or extreme flooding or more intense hurricanes, these are, important things that we see and we experience around the world. And I think that's part of what's making the debate about climate change sort of move on to away from, what's causing this change in climate to what can we actually do about it.
And you're going to be getting into the politics of this. So you can't deny the fact that we have a president right now that is basically saying, I think that there is climate change, but it's cyclical, and there's no proof that it has anything to do with man. How do you combat that, and how do you not get into that when you talk at this next lecture?
Yeah, I think that finding common ground is important. I think, like I said, when we look at the extremes of political views, we might see some of that. And there are certainly just some people that aren't going to believe the science, regardless of how definitive it is. But what I would say is if 97% of doctors thought that a certain thing that we're ingesting causes cancer, we would certainly believe them. But for some reason, when it comes to climate change, we don't believe 97% of the experts.
Yeah.
Okay, so something you mentioned earlier was this window of time that we have that's closing. And I think part of the skepticism comes from the fact that, similar to when people talk about the apocalypse, it was going to be Y2K, then there was going to be something in 06.
The drugs,
then it was
the war on drugs was a big one, especially in the 80s, where it was felt that people lied. The government lied to the people when it came to things like marijuana. So automatically, I'm trying to go with you on this.
Yeah.
Automatically, we begin to become suspicious where we don't believe anything.
Certainly. And we also have a problem dealing with problems that are in the future, 10 or 15 or 20 years. It's easy for us to sort of put off the changes that we need to make because it's not tomorrow, it's not next month.
Yeah.
It's in the future, and that's where sort of I feel like finding common values, talking about our children and our grandchildren, what kind of earth are they going to experience, can sort of prompt us a little bit to do that. But this is also a little different, I think, than some of those other ones. We can actually measure. We see the changes that are happening.
Yeah.
And so, we experience them, like I said, in different ways in different parts of the world. But we all experience some changes in climate. Things are different from when I was a child and when most of us were.
Yeah.
Just one other thought on fossil fuel usage versus alternatives. If this is an important issue as it is, I would just be interested to see or wonder why the governments around the world really haven't taken federally reserved land and basically set up what would be solar panel grids, where instead of digging for more oil, we would take these reserved lands, take 1%, put up these huge solar panels, and generate electricity that way. I feel like there's a ton of land that we could be doing this on, but
and to parlay off that just a little bit, Frank, your take on the president. What the president's argument has been is, listen, why we removed ourselves from this climate accord in Paris is because we let everybody else go. We put higher standards upon the United States. It was extremely costly for us and our businesses, while we let countries like China kind of get away with environmental murder, if you will. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things to say about that. Is that we have the standard of living that we do here in this country due to our reliance and our use of fossil fuels. And, other parts of the world have come into that a little bit later. And there was a quote from a previous lecture that really sort of hit home to me, that those that are most vulnerable to the effects of climate change are those that are least responsible for their impacts. We've enjoyed what we have in this country because we've burned a lot of coal and we've used a lot of oil. And there are various international agreements as to how we handle that that are being debated. They were, being discussed in Poland last month or 2 months ago. And there are things that we need to attack. These are, big problems that take, international consensus and agreement. And if we are not a part of that agreement, part of those discussions, and then we're really taking ourselves out of the equation. And, trying to withdraw from Paris agreements and so forth, I think is definitely a detriment to, the health of our planet.
Talking to Frank DuRoss Jr., of course, not everybody knows, but Frank's father is also a scientist. He deals in comets. That's his specialty. Frank, I want to ask you, before we'll give this one more plug, but I want to ask, you hear the stories about, kids today. I mean, you're right in the midst of it, where the hormones are going nuts. You're in junior high and middle school. So kids, they just don't learn the way they used to. Kids aren't the same as they used to be. What is your observation of these kids, and how does it compare to the education you had, that I had, and our parents had?
I would say that people have been saying that for time eternal. And I think kids are getting a great education. I think kids are engaged and they're knowledgeable about the world. I think that, we are in good shape if we can take care of things for the youth of our future. But it's great being in that environment, being
Yeah.
a teacher at the junior high. They're just fun to be around, and every day is I'm thankful for the job that I have.
Pretty cool. Kids aren't the way they used to be and probably never were.
Never were.
Yeah, never were. All right, so this is a climate change lecture series. It happens Monday, 7 till 8 p.m. in the New Hartford Public Library. Is it free to attend?
It is free to attend, open to anybody. We'd love to have a diverse group of attendees there. We've had 40 to 50 people for the last 3 lectures, so we're looking forward to a nice turnout on Monday at the Public Library.
All right, Frank. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Frank DuRoss Jr. Coming up, we'll do our free money question of the day from the Hobica Law Firm. We can get Anthony Brindisi's take on this as well, but a lot to talk about from yesterday. He did what he said he was going to do on the campaign trail, and then went a little further. He didn't even. He says it might be a scheduling change, but it all worked out where while everybody else was taking pictures with their family and Nancy Pelosi, Anthony Brindisi opted out. We'll talk to him right after the news, coming up at WIBX. Rob in New York Mills standing by right now. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good, Bill. How are you?
Great to hear from you. Every time Rob comes on and takes a shot, I always remind him of the time he won, I don't know, concert tickets by eating an onion like a raw onion like an apple. Mm-hmm.
Was it white, yellow, or red?
I don't know. What was it, Rob? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was red.
Yeah, the red's got to
red.
be the toughest one,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I don't know. Those yellow ones seem to be...
Those are
bring
the
on
ones that make
tears.
you really tear up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
That might be tough.
All right, Rob, you ready to go here? It's a chance to win $100 in cash from the Hobica Law Firm. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You'll have 7 seconds before the buzzer. Here's your question. Who holds the world record for singing the lowest note ever sung by a human? Ready, go. What is his name?
I don't know.
You surprised me, Rob. I thought you'd have nailed this. I thought we were definitely giving away $100 because you're so good at anticipating the questions. What if I were to ask you who was the lone singer in the band that sang Jambalaya on the Bayou?
I would know that one. But,
John Fogerty, yeah. The answer, by the way, is Tim Storms. Here he is once again singing this range, which goes, they say, the length of an entire 88-key piano. He has the greatest range of any human. So they say. Here he is.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. It keeps going, by the way. It's still going.
Well,
I'll take the Comets tickets still, Bill.
I do not have Comets tickets for you, I don't believe, but I do have a $25 gift card to the 72 Tavern and Grill, where you could watch a Comets game.
Abs, that's a great
Yeah,
point.
it's almost as good. I'll
All
take
right,
that.
that's pretty good, which is an awesome restaurant. The food's great. The burgers, the tots, the wings, the tuna tartare. I love it. $25 gift card. Sit tight, and Davey's going to hook you up, Rob.
All righty.
Happy New Year, man. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
By the way, they say his frequency goes as low as 4 hertz, which the human ear, even his, cannot hear. He says he can only...
Well, how do we know?
He can only feel the notes in his throat. And some say that's exactly what Anthony Brindisi felt like yesterday when he voted for Joe Biden as Speaker of the House. Good morning, Congressman Brindisi.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I guess I didn't know, and I knew this. It just kind of reminded me that you don't have to be a sitting member of the House to be Speaker of the House.
That's correct.
I was
sorry for my voice because I'm a little cold, but
I was hoping you could vote for me. I think I'd make a great speaker.
Well, it was a game time decision for me, and it was down to Bill Keeler or Joe Biden.
I figured.
Coin flip. Bill comes up short.
Figured I was in there. I should have lobbied more. Darn it.
Yeah.
So
I didn't like your platform. I didn't think you were a consensus builder.
That's a very good point. I do create
ratings, not consensus.
That's
so.
right.
Yeah, you're polarizing. I'm
like the president. We follow the same guerrilla campaign, the guerrilla marketing. Okay, so by the way, this was the thing everybody said you weren't going to do, and you did it, and skipped the photo opportunity as well.
Yeah, well, then skipping the photo opportunity really was just a scheduling issue. I mean, I had all family in town yesterday. We had a reception afterwards, and then we had votes all the way up until about 10 o'clock last night, so it was just no time to do it. But to me, I made this commitment during the campaign. I was not going to support her. I had hoped that there was another member of Congress that had stepped up to run for the role of Speaker. No one decided to do that, and my options were to vote present, which to me was kind of taking a way out, or to name someone else. And I decided to name someone else and was joined by about 15 other members who named other people for Speaker.
There were a handful that did as you did, or decided to simply vote present yesterday. Were you pressured at all by Pelosi?
I wouldn't say it's pressure. I was definitely asked by people around her to support her or to vote present. But I just felt that, if I make a promise, I intend to follow through on my promise. That's something I've said during the campaign. I've had TV commercials running about it, and my opponent constantly attacked me on this issue. And I said right along from the beginning I wasn't going to support her if elected, and I felt it was very important to follow through on that decision.
I want to ask you if you have any hope that, we're going on day 14 right now of the closure. What do you think? How long is this thing going to go on?
Well, I hope it ends pretty quickly, because what's happening right now, it's really not good for our economy, and it's not good for the country as a whole. You have federal workers, whether it's FBI or TSA or Border Security, that are going to start going without pay starting next week. That's not a way to operate a government. There's serious issues with immigration and strengthening our borders that we have to have a healthy debate about. But I don't think shutting the government down is the right way to go. And we passed a series of bills last night that the Senate, with bipartisan support, passed a few weeks ago to open the government. We passed those last night in the House, and we'll continue that today. And it's the same bills the Senate passed just a few weeks ago with overwhelming bipartisan support. So hopefully the president would sign on to those, and we can get the government up and running. And then we can talk about how we strengthen our borders, how we fix our health care crisis, how we take care of prescription drugs, the other things that I heard about on the campaign trail.
I do want to ask you, somebody said to me yesterday, boy, I got to tell you, watching Brindisi, he sounds like a moderate Republican, especially when talking about border, the solution for border control and security down there. What's your take on that? How do we fix that problem? Is it a wall? Is it a combination of a bunch of things?
I've always said there's not one solution that's going to fix our borders or strengthen our borders. It's kind of like a stew. You imagine a beef stew. You have lots of ingredients. You have the beef. You have potatoes. You have carrots. All of those together make a great stew. Any one of them alone is not going to make a stew. But it's the same thing with the border. You have possibly a physical barrier, a wall in some areas. In other areas, you need more border agents. In other areas, you need more technology. Over the Mexican border, only 1 out of 5 trucks that crosses the border actually gets scanned by these X-ray machines to determine what's inside these trucks. Yeah. We don't have enough equipment to scan all the trucks. So there's lots of stuff coming across the border that goes unchecked. So we need more technology to scan these trucks that are coming across the border. So I had said all along that I would support funding for a physical barrier in certain areas where it makes sense. But we also have to do that as part of immigration reform to fix our asylum process, to do something about the immigrants who are here in the country already. So it all has to go together.
I want to ask your take. We call you a moderate, and that came from a Republican yesterday. But you're in the midst of an interesting group of Congress people. You have Ocasio-Cortez. There's also this woman who is now able to wear the hijab. The Muslim Rashida Tlaib, I believe is her name. Who, boy, I got to tell you, these guys, as far right as the Tea Party ever was, you have members on the Democratic side that are as far, if not more, to the left. This Tlaib on Trump saying, impeach the mother blanker. You got a handful here. These people are pretty radical. What's your take?
Well, I think I would say that the majority of the country, I think, is more moderate and just wants to get issues fixed, whether it's health care, whether it's prescription drugs, you name it. I'm not interested in impeaching the president because that's not what the voters in our district sent me to Washington to do. I think the voters in our district want the investigations to play out. But while we're here, we have to get some of these issues solved, whether it's health care, Social Security. These are things we're here to work on. So I think the extremes on both sides are starting to drive the conversations too much. It's being fueled by talk radio and 24-hour news that just reinforces people's already preconceived beliefs on different issues.
Yeah.
We have to all take a step back and just look at how we can sit down and actually compromise and get things done, because that's actually where the bulk of Americans are. They want Democrats and Republicans working together. Once these elections are over, they want these folks working together to actually get things done. So I'm not interested in obstructing or continuing the bombastic rhetoric. What I'm interested in is actually getting some things done. And if it means working with Democrats, if it means working with Republicans, I don't care. I just want to get things done.
Okay, so I'll ask you this because I will be criticized for just lobbing softballs at you. So
here's massage that you're
giving a little massage. Yeah. Here's a real softball for you. What was it like yesterday, and what's it been like up to this point? It's one thing to be watching it on TV, but to be there and to be a part of it. You were all over television, the news reports yesterday, just grabbing your photo. So what was it like, and did you have to kind of pinch yourself a little bit?
I think my photo was on TV so much because I was sitting in front of Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, that is true. I was going to mention that. You were in the
they
row
were really
ahead
looking
of me.
at me.
Yeah.
No, it was a great honor to be there and to have Erica, my wife, up in the gallery, to have my children on the floor with me, sitting there during that process was very special to me. To be able to spend that with family and to really soak in the history. As low as we think of Congress in our country, Congress is a historic institution, and at one time was capable of doing really great things for our country. And I hope we can get back to a time where we can actually get some things done to make the American people proud of us again, because I truly believe in public service. I think it's a noble calling, and I wish more people would go into public service. But we're so down on it right now because you have these extremes that just poison the conversation when most of the Americans just want Congress working, and that's what I'm here to do.
It is interesting when they talk about Nancy Pelosi, and she certainly has been demonized in politics through all of this. But and I know I'll be criticized for saying this, but even the president has said it. This is a woman who you should not underestimate. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
She's a very strong leader, and certainly is going to. Her challenge now, I think, is going to be trying to bring together a Democratic caucus that is pretty diverse. You have a lot of folks on the progressive end. You have a lot of moderates, and they're kind of evenly split. So it's going to be interesting how she leads the caucus over these next 2 years, and hopefully we can get this. I think first and foremost is getting the government up and running. I never expected to be sworn in during a government shutdown, but get things up and running, and then let's start talking about some of these issues that we campaigned on.
Good luck with that voice, by the way. I'm sure you've been doing a lot of talking. Anthony Brindisi, Congressman Anthony Brindisi, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Anytime.
Okay. We'll break and come back here. Next hour, I want to get into some of this Utica City FC. I also have a whole list of stories that we didn't get to in 2018 that are just awesome, that I can't believe we didn't get to. And there's one local story that we'll dig into that has been prompted by social media. Apparently, the story goes that the waiter may have been homosexual or at the very, very least feminine. The receipt, and this was, we're told, happened here locally, that when the bill was filled out, the credit card was taken care of, and the tip was left. The section for tip was left 0, and a very bad word was written involving this person's sexuality was written on the receipt. It's something that's making its way through social media. We'll talk about it coming up next hour at WIBX. Joe Roberts is on right now from the Utica City FC. And, of course, this weekend, the streak is they're going to try to keep the streak alive. Mm-hmm. Maybe another sellout. but also an undefeated record at home for the Utica City FC. Joe, good morning.
Hey, guys, how are you? I see the sun peeking through the trees out here in Rome where I'm living, so it's going to be a good day, I think.
It's always sunny in Rome. I don't know if you know that.
That's right. You know what? I guess I'm starting to get the idea of that.
That's what Jackie Izzo says. I don't know if it's true or not, but she says always sunny in Rome. There is something to be said for the sunshine because, I don't know, we went through like 2 weeks of just gray, and when it gets dark, it just gets dark, and it gets dark at 4:20, 4:30 in the afternoon, and man.
Just ask John Denver. Nice. Sunshine on my shoulder.
Yeah, that's right. It helped him, yeah. So did the tree that he ran into. Not good. Joe, good morning. This team is red hot right now.
It's a good soccer team. And what's better than, the best experience of it all is coming out and watching them play and being a part of a packed Adirondack Bank Center and getting behind something that I promise this city is going to be very, very proud of. So there's this really kind of warm communal feeling to this this undertaking of bringing in this soccer team. Yeah. And so the fans have really enjoyed it. And obviously the team is good. It's a good team and a lot more talented than people might understand. So, when we break it down, these aren't guys from just down the street that you played high school soccer with. There's a couple local guys from Syracuse, Baldwinsville, but we have guys from Brazil and Serbia and Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. It's an international game with international players in your backyard, and it's unbelievable.
I was driving in this morning and threw my old Milwaukee right out the window.
Yeah, good. I hope you did. I hope you did, and I hope you had something to say to the can on its way out.
I did. It was mean. It was very mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you know what? It's look. There's no friends in rivalries, right? So
right.
we got to let them have it.
For those that aren't following the tongue in cheek here, the mayor has made a proclamation denouncing basically Old Milwaukee beer for this weekend and Sunday in particular, as Milwaukee is the team coming to town here. It is quite interesting when you look at this, Joe. Very much like, so tonight the Comets are playing where? In Cleveland, right?
This weekend.
This weekend.
Yeah, the Comets are in Cleveland tomorrow and Sunday.
So just like in the AHL, here's this little city in upstate New York playing against big cities, and Utica City FC going against Milwaukee. We're competing with far bigger cities around the country.
Without a doubt, Milwaukee, Baltimore, there's teams out in California, there's teams down in Mexico and up in Canada. You're talking massive markets. And, I'd love to sit here and say that I'm surprised at the support that the Utica and Mohawk Valley region have been giving the team, but I'm not. Like I tell people who aren't from around here, and I'm still a newbie to this area, but I say I think there's something in the water. And so whatever it is, the support is, you can feel it, and you can feel that energy kind of bubbling and building, and it's going to explode. So, yeah, we're taking on big markets, and, but I promise you, Utica is going to be a destination where people are going to want to play in the future because they'll understand what it's like to play in front of this crowd and to play for an organization that treats them the right way and does things the right way, and that's certainly what's being built.
And I have to say, for you, is this all brand new for you? I mean, and do you call the games for Utica City FC?
No, I don't do the broadcast, but there's a very good chance if you come to a game, you'll see me running around, banging a drum, starting chants, starting cheers, and doing a little, in-game hosting, if you will. So
cool.
It's one of those things where I've always liked soccer, but I've never been exposed to the arena version of it. And it's cool because it satisfies both soccer fans and fans of just sport, including hockey. It's 5-on-5. It's change on the fly. In a late game, you'll pull your goalie for the extra attacker. I mean, you know more about it than you might think you would. So it's easy to catch on. It's easy to understand, and I'm falling in love with it probably more than I thought I was going to. Like when I wake up with my jersey on, I think I'm into something that I'm having a ball with.
Can I ask you a little hockey-related question about Darren Archibald and your thoughts on the trade?
Yeah, it's a business, right? It's a tough business at that. Nobody is exempt from being the topic of trade or being part of a trade, and so it's particularly tough when it happens at the NHL level, right? Because that was the kind of contract he was on. So, it makes it challenging because that's a deal that was made up at the Vancouver level. So, like I said, it boils down to the fact that it's a business, and he obviously has great history in this area. But you know what? I'm happy for him because he gets a fresh start with a new organization, and he has a clean slate to kind of write his own new story in a new market.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's no reason why he won't be popular where he goes. And, there's still reason to be very excited about this team, right? Reed Boucher was named to the All-Star team yesterday, and he's going to showcase our league on a huge stage with television coverage and stuff like that. So, the trade with Archie is sad. But, again, it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah. And then finally, I want to ask you what's going on with Demko. It looks like, and this is the other part of this game, is, when the parent club, which, by the way, we just signed a new deal, which is awesome. When the parent club needs assistance, they call him up. And what is Demko on his way up? Has he gone up yet? What's the story?
Nope, nothing yet on that front. Jim Benning, who's the general manager of Vancouver, said that he will be joining them. He didn't really put a timeline on it. They think that it sounds like they think he's stewed long enough in the AHL that they think he's ready to make that jump. If I got to tell you something. It would be terrible to lose him because of the impact that he makes on the team. But with that being said, if he's not a goalie ready to play in the National Hockey League, then I have no idea what a goalie who's ready to play in the National Hockey League looks like. So if that is the opportunity, if he gets the chance, my goodness, I hope he goes out and sets the world on fire because he's a fine young man who's really grown up in Utica, and he'll tell you that too. So we hope that whenever it happens, it's long-term, and that's where the success is for him.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we get to watch him, and that's obviously the hope. His hope is that he builds a career here and then parlays that into a professional, an NHL level career where he becomes.
There's not a single Comets player that comes here to say, boy, I hope I never have to leave.
I made it. This is it.
You're so right. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm pretty confident that one day you're going to brag to your friends saying, yeah, I used to watch that guy play in Utica.
Yeah.
So I'm just so confident in his ability to be successful. So I hope it happens soon, and I hope it happens, and really go and don't look back. I mean, it's tough to say that, but really that's what his goal is, and that's what the organization's goal is.
I want to tell you, 2 weeks ago, I went to the 72 Tavern and Grill, and I brought my daughter and her friend, and they went to the soccer game. And I watched the game along with football inside the 72. It's awesome. Think about it. It's an exciting game. This soccer is really fast-paced. It's so much like hockey. It's well worth seeing. It's a different experience, so get out and check it out. This Sunday, Milwaukee is in town. Joe Roberts, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Guys, have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Thanks for your time, Joe. Everybody
Joe Roberts is the broadcaster from the Comets, and, of course, he'll be calling tomorrow night's and Sunday's game.
Everybody we talk to says it's fun. You got to be. You got to see it.
Was, and to be able to sit in there in the 72 and watch the game, which is really on the other side of the wall.
Right.
It's cool. And
it's like a big window.
I think that game they had won it was like 11 or 12-5 or something was the final. So there's a lot of scoring. It's cool.
Yeah.
And that's that. So check it out. Got a break. 8:21 at WIBX. Was it earlier this week, Davey, or last week?
I think it was this week.
Yeah. What do you say?
Wednesday.
Yeah. Glad to hear that. I will not reciprocate with a. I hate to kick them when they're down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've kind of refrained from all of that stuff, but she says that I'm unfair and all that stuff. Whatever. Whatever. I wish her the best of whatever the best means for her. I'm sure she's going to be like, I don't know, vice president or something. Who knows?
Hey, now.
Yeah. Federal prosecutor.
What?
That's what she has said. It's possible. Yeah. So, but I'm not going to retaliate. Speaking of, I got to tell you, I received a phone call yesterday, and I wonder if anybody else has received a call and what you have done and how you've handled it. 315-736-0186 is our phone number if you want to pipe in on any of this. But yesterday I received a phone call. Hey, it's Joey calling from this, whatever, some business. And we're raising money. I was wondering if your business would like to support athletes from Proctor High School.
Oh, the boosters.
So, yes. So I, at the time, was in the middle of something and said that I was unable to talk and please call me back. So they're supposed to call me back today. But I saved the number and then looked it up, and I actually spoke with Bruce Karam. And he has no knowledge of any fundraiser that is going on, especially with a company out of New Jersey.
Get out of here.
As they're trying to raise money for Proctor athletes, or the programs at Proctor.
Get
no
out of here.
clue of
This
such
is
a program.
New level of scam here.
So the question is, did you anybody else receive? I can't be the only business in the Utica area that received this phone call yesterday. And did you give money? Did you hang up on them? Did you ask them to call back like I did? And how did you handle it? Give us a call if you'd like to give us your take on this, 315-736-0186.
Wow.
But I can tell you, from what I understand, according to Bruce Karam, there is no active program where funds are being raised, especially using an out-of-town company for Proctor sports programs.
Yeah, I mean, really all the local schools have boosters, and it's basically parents who volunteer, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
not, they don't hire outside
right.
companies.
Like, I know, for instance, you'll get a local pizzeria or something, and they'll say, all right, well, you can, sell our gift certificates, and we'll give you $5 on every
Sure.
one you sell. That's a neat little program that they'll do. Or you're selling chocolates or something like that. This is a company it's the same type of thing that you'd get if they were trying to raise money for the sheriff's department. You know how the sheriff will come out and say, we have no active program. State police, we have no active program where people are calling from out of town. And you know what? These could actually be scams, but it could also be legal. What is the percentage? I believe it's like 5% that a company needs if they do a fundraiser. They have to give at least 5% to the charity. 95% of that money could be used as administrative costs. I'm pretty sure that's the law in New York State. I could be wrong. But in this case, you want to try to call the number?
Yeah, let's do it.
How do I do I have to dial anything
Just
special?
1315.
Are we going to get someone? Can we do
I don't
this?
know. If we get somebody, I'll pick up.
Okay.
Yeah, pick up the
Okay.
So there, just do 13. You just have to dial 315.
No,
Just
not
a-
315. Whatever.
1315.
Well,
Oh,
it's
that's
in
an
New
area
Jersey.
code.
It's
Sorry.
out of New
yes.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Now let's try it. And pop, boop, pop.
Yeah, and then 5,000.
Oh, yeah. Phone number rhythm.
Thank you for calling the Simons Agency. For English, press 1. Para Español, oprima dos.
What agency?
Simons?
To make payment on your account, please visit our
So
website.
just go down to there. So you got to hit the bottom bank number. Yeah.
So
as Bill is talking into the receiver, so it sounds like it's some kind of agency. So,
boy, that's an interesting.
like an ad agency, maybe.
I must have dialed the wrong number. Apparently, I owe a copay to this company. It's $20. I owe them for my daughter's latest doctor's appointment. I think I called the wrong number. I don't know.
Bruce Karam.
That was embarrassing. That was very embarrassing.
Do you know anything about this fundraiser from Simons Agency?
No, I'm just telling you that is the.
So your story is real, but you dialed the wrong number.
No. I think that is the correct number. Yeah. But it seems like it is an agency that is trying to raise money for Proctor. I don't know.
Can you talk to the superintendent?
Simons Agency. Superintendent has no clue. They're going to call me back again today. So the one thing you have to be very careful about these is on your cell phone. A lot of there was a story in the paper the other day about people. I'm kidding about the copay thing, but there's this one company. I don't know where the copay is from, but they call like every day.
Yeah, and it's I almost don't even answer because it's
you
mine.
know
I get
it's
as a recording.
You
it's
can
like eligibility. I think
you're
it's,
right.
And
Well, this is
healthcare
like
and
some
eligibility.
copay that they say that my daughter owes. How does she owe anything? I don't get it. Anyway,
she's signing contracts, Bill. You know,
she's signing contracts. Anyway, what they tell you is to be careful about calling back these numbers because there's a scam now where they're actually fishing for your information. And if you call them back, you are being scammed just by calling back using your cell phone. So it could ultimately end up costing you money. So be
nice
careful
job
with
using
this.
our company.
That's why I call on the station line.
So can I ask you something?
I don't want any part of that.
What was the it wasn't an 866, was it?
I don't know. This is a New Jersey number. 908 is the area code.
Because I did a Google search, a couple things came up, and one says this particular one that came up said it is permanently closed.
Well, this wasn't closed yesterday. We'll see if they call me back today. Hold tight. We're coming right back. Pioneers, our home, is it tonight? They're going to be playing
Skidmore
tonight. It's part of their whatever the league is, ACHL, I believe. Anyway, it's a conference game for the Pioneers. It's a big one, and they're playing at home at the Odd tonight. Tomorrow, Notre Dame plays on the road. Syracuse plays Notre Dame on the road. That game is probably an ESPN game tomorrow, Davey? Both unranked, but Notre Dame, God forbid. I mean, Notre Dame is all over the TV.
Well, Notre Dame's coming off the big blowout loss to Virginia Tech, and Syracuse is coming off their big victory over St. Bonaventure.
Can you look up and see what where that is on TV? We mentioned the Comets on the road tomorrow night and Sunday. They'll be playing in Cleveland, and Utica City FC is at home on Sunday against Milwaukee. So it's pretty big. Here's a question for you.
UCHC.
UCHC. They're in a different league now.
Yes. It's pretty much the same league. They just renamed it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so you got UCFC, you got the UCHC, and I'm sure there's other acronyms we can throw in there,
I don't
confuse
know.
everybody.
ACHL keeps coming to mind.
Well, ECHL is kind of like a level or two below the AHL.
Okay.
FYI.
So, according to a company, I don't want to give the name of the company because it'll give this away. What do you think people are going into the year 2019? What technology do you feel, according to this company, is no longer being used by Americans? Or the usage is down by more than 8% from last year, and it's expected to be down even at a more staggering rate this year.
Voicemail?
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
I am good at this game.
You ruin these games always.
Oh, man. Right out of nowhere.
Vonage is reporting that voicemail use is down by 8% from last year. Apparently, people are just sick and tired of waiting for the message to finish.
You can just send a text. I do this all the time. I'm sorry.
My message is very simple. Wait for the beep. It's been the same for years. I don't want nothing long in there. Just wait for the beep, and then the beep comes in. But no one leaves a message anymore. And I don't know about yours, but I know the iPhone and Google Voice as well, they both transcribe the voicemail anyway.
Sure.
So I can pull up voicemail and never even have to listen to it. I can read it, and it's like, oh. But normally what happens is if you call me, I'll text you back and say, what do you want? Or I'll call you back and say I saw you called.
Yeah, in a meeting, or I'll call you when I'm done. Yeah. The other thing is it's funny because I still get, and it's usually relatives who will leave me a voicemail. And what I tend to do is I see you, I missed a call from you.
You don't even listen to the voicemail.
I just call you back. For instance, my father will say to me, did you get my message? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Why not? Well, I figured I'd just call you. I was going to have to call you after I listened to the message anyway.
Or today, just send a text message. That's really what's happening. Voicemail is really becoming a thing of a bit of a thing of the past. And it is annoying if you've left a message and the person just calls you back without checking. Did you get my message? Yes. I told you didn't have to call me back.
Yeah. It is annoying, especially if it was a good message where you concisely laid out. That's the problem, is that some of these messages run on for 2.5 minutes. Yeah. If you've concisely laid out what you wanted to explain to the person and now they've called you back and you have to re-explain it. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit there and listen to voicemails.
According to the study, also found that people retrieve their voicemail messages 14% less often than they did last year.
I've got 3 on my phone right now.
Instead, they just send a text back to the caller. Here is the network report. This actually goes back into 2012, where the decline began with text messaging.
According to data compiled for USA Today, voicemail is fading fast, down almost 10% in a year's time. According to the internet phone company Vonage, people are sick of the process, the prompts, the elaborate introductions, and wherever possible, customers prefer to send a text or email.
Some of them are really long.
Yes.
You know, especially if you use the automation with it. Some are just long, and it's just
wireless customer 315-816-21 bleep.
Anyway, they're saying the FAR just really not used, so you're better off hanging up. They'll see you called, or send the person a text message.
You know
and
who
with
that was,
text
by the way?
messages today, by the way, you could do voice recognition. They do voice recognition, so you can easily send a message without even having to type.
You know who that audio was from, don't you?
That's Brian Williams.
Oh, yeah, Brian Williams. Yeah.
Back then, that story was fake.
Yeah.
He lied all about it. Now it's, for some reason, real. What else do I have that I've not gotten into? This was posted on YouTube a few days, maybe a few months ago. Again, some of the stuff is from 2018. A guy fell off a rope swing.
Okay.
And they're calling it the fall of the century.
Okay.
But the reason this is relevant and worthy of even talking about is it's being compared to the grape trampling lady. You remember when she was making the noise? They're saying this is actually replacing the grape woman. You remember the grape lady? She was the TV reporter, and she was stomping the grapes and tried to do it quickly, but fell off out of the grape bucket and onto the ground.
I think she knocked the wind out of herself.
She did. And
tried to talk, and it came out like
it
this.
Was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here he is.
1. Oh my God! I'm so dizzy.
Yeah, I believe this is winner chicken dinner here.
Tell you.
Oh, he's still going.
Okay, that's what happens when. So what you're supposed to do is come over, put the person on their back, and lift them up and drop them on their back. Lift them up and drop them on their back. That's supposed to knock the wind back into you.
Are you serious?
I don't know. They used to do that during football practice. We had a coach do it. It seemed to work. At the very least, your back hurt when you were done. You weren't thinking about the fact that you couldn't breathe. Maybe that was helpful. American Airlines had seats come loose on 2 flights last year. All the way loose, sliding around the cabin while the plane was in the air. No one got hurt, but they're now inspecting 8 planes that recently had the seats removed from maintenance. Here's some audio on this story.
2 American Airlines 757s had to make emergency landings for an unusual reason. Some of the seats came loose. It happened Saturday on a flight from Boston to Miami when a row of seats separated from the floor. This is the sound of the pilot talking to a dispatcher.
During climb out, passenger seats row 12, D, E, and F came loose out of the floor. Passengers are unable to sit in that seat.
Well, it happened again on a New York to Miami flight.
Hard to believe, but that is happening.
It is kind of scary. We did get an update, by the way, on the voicemail story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share it? Did you see it?
Yeah.
From Greeley? Basically, he says, with AT&T voicemail, you can now hit 0, and it goes right to the beep, and you can skip all the greetings.
Oh, okay. That's
which
cool.
is kind of a cool thing. Right, because a lot of times the automated, they give the whole 9-digit number. Is it a 10-digit number? The 10-digit number. And then there might even be a message at the end.
Because some people, so this is what a lot of people do, too. So you can leave the generic, this person's not available, and then they just, all they have to do, or all they're supposed to do is say their name. But then they'll do that option, but then they'll record their message.
What happens with mine? I think it just goes
right
to the beep.
It just goes right to
Just wait for the beep.
But then
boom.
a lot of the time too, the woman comes out afterward and says, if you want to leave a callback number or
yeah, I don't like that woman. I don't like her at all. Teacher in middle school in Indiana synced her iPhone to a school issued iPad. So I got to tell you, you do have to be very, very careful. Like if you have Apple TV, you can sync to your Apple TV.
Your phone, yeah. No,
you can sync your phone to your Apple TV, and what it does, and beware here, is it takes your photos and syncs them to the iPad. It syncs them to the Apple TV. So instead of having maybe a screensaver your photos will begin to show up across your big screen TV in your living room.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Be very careful, depending on what you have within your phone.
Danger.
In this day and age.
Will Robinson.
It's a real problem, and for this middle teacher in Indiana, it was.
His name wasn't Will Robinson, was it?
She had some of her photos that just so happened to be topless of herself on her phone.
Danger, Mrs. Robinson.
It synced across the iPads that the students were using, and there they were looking at her topless photos on the iPad sitting in the classroom.
Ooh. Did she lose her job for that?
I believe I have a little audio on this one.
A picture showed up of the teacher topless. It's not our fault that she had the photo on there, and we couldn't do anything to not look at it.
You're right. You can't do it. You can't unsee things. You cannot unsee things, especially when your eyes are
I'm
wide
trying
open.
not to look at it, but it's too hard.
You can clearly see this kid has been just significantly scarred. His mother checks in, too. Here,
popped up when he pressed the button. It was her fault that she had the photo on there because her iPhone synced to it.
It's all about the fact it's not my fault. It wasn't my fault. I looked. Yes, I looked, but it wasn't my fault. That's his whole thing about this is not his fault.
It's something to make all of her photos sync onto there.
He didn't even touch the iPad. It was another kid who pulled the picture up.
Even the mother's like, he didn't touch the iPad. He didn't do anything. He did not do anything wrong here.
He never even touched it, period. Very unfair. In all reality, you would think she'd be fired.
It is very unfair, yes. The kid enjoyed every bit of it, ma'am. Yeah. Right? He's a middle school kid. Don't you think he enjoyed the daylights out of it?
Nah,
What are you trying to say in this world of Me Too, Andrew? Do you want to go further?
No.
I hope those hemorrhoids are not affecting your brain here this morning. And
it's affecting everything else, I'll tell you.
And a Chinese company is planning to build the world's tallest skyscraper, and they're planning to do it in 90 days flat. It'll be 220 stories.
No way.
32 feet taller than a building in Dubai.
Dubai's got the record, yeah.
They can do it that fast because everything in the building is modular and prefabricated.
Remember we talked...
Actually, I'm sorry. This story is from 2012. I told you I'm looking through old stories. I don't know how that one got in.
I'll save my commentary then. Do you remember we talked to the guy? He was from Utica. He was basically complaining that either the city or the county wouldn't entertain his business plan, which was prefab homes or apartments.
I do remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
And
he had a whole plan. He was going to build a whole community.
Yeah, he could do like a whole complex in a couple days, basically. Mm-hmm. It wasn't 2 days, but it was several days. But this
type of technology. These were skyscrapers, 220 stories, 32 feet taller than the big building in Dubai.
Well, it seems like that never came to fruition.
I have no idea because the story is from 2012.
Well, it's from 2012, but they said it would only take a few days to build it, and we're in 2019. And I believe Dubai still has the record.
Well, it's the no skyscrapers downtown group's really been effective in Dubai.
Oh, those are affecting your brain.
We'll come in and wrap this up for a Friday morning and a holiday week. It's hard to believe, but yeah, it's true. This is the end of a holiday week. We'll wrap it up next to WIBX. What? Are you okay over there? This story, Andrew, I'm going to need you for this. I've tried to avoid you all morning long, other than the news.
I appreciate that.
He's in a great deal of pain today.
Sorry for that mic buzz.
It's what happens. Touch it again. Did it buzz? I didn't hear it. It's been fixed.
It's a miracle.
I love it.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So for those that just say, oh, Bill just hears problems, whether they're there or not, if you notice, for the record, I just noticed there wasn't a problem. So, just for the record. And we went through the Christmas show where every time someone grabbed a hold of the microphone, do it again?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yep, now it's doing it again.
You sure it's not your watch? There's sometimes a digital interference on the mic.
Try your left hand. No, there's still a short in that mic. I had thought
you got to screw with it.
I thought it was fixed. So much for that. Okay. This is a terrible story that happened apparently on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
At a local establishment. I believe it was a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And the person had consumed, eaten maybe, and was getting their bill. So it's believed that the bartender might have been gay.
Yes, or the impression of this
at the very least, perceived flamboyant. and assumed to be gay, and how can you tell? You really can't tell, right?
No, you can't.
Because you can't tell
anymore.
I know.
That's a very good point. Who cares? Apparently, the customer did. So the customer left 0 tip.
So I actually saw the receipt, a photo of the receipt. I want to make that clear. I never saw the actual receipt. I saw the original Facebook post a friend of mine had put on her Facebook. That was a picture of the receipt, and again, where the tip,
and the name of the establishment, which I don't want to do.
Right. So, and it had the name of the person too, because when you pay with a credit card, at one point it's got
it had the person's name and everything.
That's why it was taken down.
So, so the post had,
By the way, these days, you go into a bar and you write the F word, the 3-letter F word, which. You just can't do it today. This day and age, you shouldn't have been able to ever. Right? But it is what it is. So, and why, as Manaski says, do people even care? Right. But you do something like this, and somebody posts it and posts your name, and it can come back on social media to reflect upon you to the point where you lose your job.
Yeah.
And in this state, you can be fired for any reason at all. And so they left no tip and wrote the word F-A...
Yes,
on the
just
on the
right
receipt.
above. Yep,
and left it and took off. This ended up getting posted on social media. It's been taken down since, but you actually
I saw the original post and basically what the post had explained. And again, I'm going based on what the post said was that the person whose name it was who had allegedly done this, who had allegedly wrote this on the receipt, had claimed his social media was taken down shortly after by him apparently, and. He claimed to somebody who reached out and asked him about it that, oh, no, it was a friend of mine next to me that was messing around and took the receipt and wrote it. And that was at least his explanation of it.
But then he didn't leave a tip?
No.
Still didn't leave a tip?
So he still didn't leave a tip.
Yeah. So he's still a tool. Fine. Okay.
Still, though, but why would you even, I mean, is it a thing anymore? I mean, aren't we past the gay thing? Aren't people past this stuff now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Apparently I think that it's come a long way, but clearly there's still issues.
Yeah.
And I mean, just, I don't know, the fact that, for you to take the time to write that out and not tip the person is disrespectful enough. No. But then to write those 3 letters, those 3 awful letters, that just for what? I mean, what purpose?
Davey, switching gears here, by the way, that has been circulating around social media. Davey. Syracuse plays Notre Dame tomorrow. The game is on the ACC network, which means in the Utica area, it'll be on WPNY, right?
It should be, or usually the Yes network.
We're hearing WPNY.
For sure.
Okay. And then out of, so Rome, though, could probably most likely pick it up on WSTM, is usually where the games are. In Syracuse.
Where I live in Rome, it's usually the CW13 out of the Syracuse channel.
Okay. But, Notre Dame is remember, Notre Dame could be horrible in football, and NBC still carries. They're the only college team in the country that actually has a network that is their home broadcast team.
That's why they won't join a conference. They're the only independent.
They don't have to. They get national coverage
every single game.
Every game. There's no other team where a network, other than you could say the Turner Network was the network of the Braves.
Sure,
but that's completely different.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Constantine on Anthony Brindisi saying, I don't know who's more to the left, whether it's Pelosi or Obama, et cetera, et cetera. My response to him was, I got to tell you, Pelosi looks somewhat conservative when you put her up against. Like this
Cortez.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, he responds by saying, I can't help but state my experience. Most Dems of modern day with views they proclaim and actions they undertake or propose, they would be card-carrying commies in the old Soviet Union, where I was born and lived from 1965 to 1989. That's all I'm saying, and I can't be swayed. Hey, you're just a year younger than me. I'm 1964, although I was not born in the Soviet Union. I was born in the Soviet Ilion. New York. There were quite Soviets down there. Very communist. Anyway, all I know is which side supports and tries to advance constitutional principles. I play with these concepts as a trip to Venezuela, he says, might actually be helpful. By the way, I spent a little time, a week in Venezuela.
How was that?
It was awesome. before, I mean, today it's a very scary country. You can't really go to that country today. But back then, this would have been in the 80s. I don't know. I went there for spring break. It was awesome. It was like one of their dollars was 1/1000th of an American dollar.
So you were living like a king down there.
Oh, it was unbelievable. You give somebody $1 and they went crazy. And it was a beautiful place, but the poverty there was just terrible. There's no surprise that they are politically where they are today, because it was, the divide between the poor and everybody else was so huge.
Did you drink the water? Did you get sick?
I did not drink the water. Don't drink the water in those countries.
Okay.
In Mexico, don't drink the water if you go to Mexico. In Andrew, they have found, what was the story where there was the buggy, the horse and buggy? It looks like they have made an arrest in that case?
Yeah, well, there's 5 returnable tickets, so even though a horse had to be euthanized, it wouldn't be like if you had hit a human and they died or something like that. So there's no actual charges.
Run, though, right?
Yes, it's still a hit and run. The tickets are leaving the scene of a property accident, leaving the scene. I think there's ag and market laws specifically for animals.
Although you can't say that to the wrong person.
And I would focus on you. I've got 20 seconds here, Andrew. Eric Dungy has selected an agent, and his agent is the former agent of Brett Favre.
Hey.
That's who he's gone with. I don't know what the guy's name is, but...
get a little Wrangler deal. Get a Wrangler deal.
This is somebody we're going to see playing in the NFL. I really believe it. Hey, I hope you enjoyed your holiday week. We're back Monday morning. Enjoy your weekend.